There's a moment that many dog owners describe the same way. Their dog, who has greeted them at the door every single day for years, suddenly stops. No barking, no wagging tail, just stillness. And most owners assume something is wrong. Maybe arthritis, maybe a bad day. Maybe the dog is just getting older and slowing down. But behavioral scientists who study end-of-life dog behavior say something far more meaningful is happening. Your dog isn't withdrawing. In a very real sense, they may be saying goodbye. And the way they do it is nothing like what most of us expect. She's a project manager in Chicago. She's had her lab, Marley, for almost 13 years. For most of those years, mornings looked the same. Marley would follow her from room to room. He'd sit by the door while she put on her shoes. He'd whine a little when she grabbed her keys, and the moment she opened the door, he'd press his nose to the gap and watch her go. But a few months ago, things shifted. Marley still wakes up when Sarah does. He still watches her, but he no longer follows. He stays on his bed, calm, quiet, and when she leaves, he doesn't come to the door at all. Sarah told her vet she was worried. She said it felt like Marley had given up on her. But that's not what was happening at all. What Marley was doing, what thousands of aging dogs do in their final weeks and months, is something behavioral scientists now understand in remarkable detail. He wasn't giving up. He was present in a way he had never been before.
In 2018, researchers at the University of Vienna's Clever Dog Lab published findings on how dogs process anticipation and emotional memory as they age. What they found challenges everything most owners assume about a quiet, withdrawn older dog. As dogs enter their final stage of life, their nervous system undergoes a measurable shift. The hypervigilance, the pacing, the anxiety at the door, the constant monitoring of your movements begins to quiet down. Not because they care less, but because their brain is, in a sense, conserving. Think of it this way. Imagine you've spent 13 years in a house that is always slightly too loud. Music, movement, noise everywhere. Then one day, the volume simply turns down. Not because the house emptied, but because you finally stopped needing the noise to feel safe. That's what's happening neurologically in an aging dog's final months. The cortisol spikes, the stress hormones that used to spike every time you left, begin to level out. The attachment behavior doesn't disappear, it deepens and slows. Dogs in their final days tend to seek proximity differently. Less frantic, more deliberate. They choose one person to stay near. They rest in rooms where your scent is strongest. They follow you with their eyes rather than their feet. Behavioral scientists call this passive proximity seeking, and it is, by every measure they have, an expression of deep attachment, not detachment. Here's where most devoted, loving owners make a mistake, not out of neglect, but out of love. When a dog becomes quieter, most owners respond with more stimulation, more activity, more coaxing, puzzle toys, extra walks, new treats. The instinct is completely understandable. If your dog seems sad, you try to cheer him up. But what the science suggests is that this often works against what the dog actually needs. An aging dog in this phase of life is not depressed in the clinical sense. They are not bored. They are not waiting to be entertained back to their younger self. What they are doing, and this is the part that tends to stop owners in their tracks, is regulating. They are managing their own energy with extraordinary precision. Most owners interpret quietness as a problem to be solved. Behavioral science says it's more often a preference to be respected. The owners who tend to give their dogs the most peace in this stage are not the ones doing more. They are the ones who learned how to do less and be more. Not absent, not passive, just present, quietly, without agenda. Now this matters beyond one quiet morning or one missed greeting at the door. When owners consistently misread this behavior, when they respond to a dog's natural end-of-life regulation with anxiety, overstimulation, or unintentional pressure, it creates a feedback loop. The dog, who is already working hard to stay calm, picks up on the owner's distress. Dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to human cortisol and body language. Research from Linköping University in Sweden demonstrated as early as 2017 that dogs and their owners actually synchronize their stress hormone levels over time. So when an owner is anxious about the dog being quiet, the dog often becomes more unsettled, not less. The very peace the dog was seeking gets interrupted by the owner's worry. And over weeks, that cycle can create what looks like accelerated decline, restlessness, reduced appetite, broken sleep, when in fact it was emotional dysregulation, not the underlying illness, driving those changes. The owners who understand this tend to describe something remarkable in the final days, a quality of presence between them and their dog that they had never experienced before. A stillness that felt, even in grief, like something complete.
Science-aware dog owners don't think about this as managing a dying dog. They think about it as finishing the relationship well. That shift in framing changes everything about how they move through those final weeks. Instead of asking, how do I make my dog feel better, they start asking, what does my dog actually need from me right now? And very often, the answer is simpler than anything you can buy or plan. It's your presence, your scent, your breathing, your warmth at 6 in the morning when the house is quiet and they've already checked that you're still there. The one behavioral approach that consistently shows up in the research and in the accounts of veterinary palliative care specialists is something called calm companionship. Not constant contact, not organized activity, simply being in the same space, relaxed, without needing the dog to respond or perform or be okay for your sake. What that does neurologically is allow the dog's nervous system to stay in its naturally lowered state. It signals safety without demand, and for an animal whose entire emotional life has been organized around the humans they love, that signal means everything. Marley passed away on a Tuesday morning in March. Sarah told her vet that the last few weeks had been, somehow, the most connected she had ever felt to him. She had stopped trying to fix the quiet. She had learned to sit inside it with him. She said it felt like he was teaching her something right up until the very end. And maybe he was, because dogs don't have a word for goodbye. They just have presence. And in the end, presence, offered calmly, without fear, is the most honest language either of you will ever share. If this helped you understand your dog a little more deeply, consider subscribing. There's always more to learn from the animals who already know us better than we know ourselves.